What's up, everybody? Eric here with another EWE Reviews. Today we're going to be talking about Star Trek Lower Decks Episode 1 for Season 4. I said that all weird. But either way, guys, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, let me know what you thought in the comments down below. But yeah, this is for Star Trek Lower Decks. We've started Season 4. I'm very excited about this season. I really love this show because it's one of those shows where if you love Star Trek, this one has a lot of Easter eggs. You get to see things in a way like you don't usually see in Star Trek. Usually Star Trek is very serious. This show is an animated comedy. I love it. It's one of my favorite shows, honestly. So, Star Trek Lower Decks streams on Paramount Plus. This is Season 4. The name of this episode is Tuvix. So, I'll talk about it a little bit in the plot. This episode came out on September 7, 2023. It's directed by Barry J. Kelly and Jason Zurek, and it's written by Mike McMahon. The cast includes Tawny Newsome, Jack Quaid, Noel Wells, Eugene Cordero, Don Lewis, Jerry O'Connell, Fran Tascadori, and Gillian Vigman. That's the main cast for this, and this episode has a runtime of 25 minutes. So let's talk about the plot for a second, because this one already, if you are a long-term Star Trek fan, you know what Tuvix means. Tuvix is a character from Star Trek Voyager. He's the combination of Neelix and Tuvok when they were put into a transporter along with this one little flower thing, a petal of this flower, and it ended up combining them into one being. So easily we know what this episode's going to be about. It's going to be about something on the Cerritos is going to happen while they're it's going to be a Voyager episode, obviously. Tuvix, it's an odd... We already knew from the previews that Voyager was going to be in this season. They're going with it right off the gate. I'm actually really happy about it. Voyager is my favorite Star Trek show ever, so I'm really happy about this. So we know it's going to be related to two people combining into one, just by the name of it. We don't know yet. I'm not going to spoil it yet. Remember, I'll do spoiler-free to begin with, and then I'll do spoilers later on. Alright, so yeah, that's the basic plot of this episode. And there's other things going to happen too. So what I loved about this episode is what they did prior to the final shot, like the ending. I thought they did some stuff that was really cool, and I really like how it's progressing. The characters that we're following, the four ensigns, we're following them. We're going to see what happens with them here, and I really like what they did with them. And since Voyager is my favorite Star Trek show, it was cool seeing all these callbacks. The music from Voyager, it was so cool. Like I said, I'm a big Voyager fan. It was cool to get all that stuff in there. Another thing is that the show is already setting up a season-long arc, which, as you guys have seen from my other reviews, I really enjoy when things like that happen. I think for a lot of these streaming shows, I don't just want them to be episodic. I want them to be episodic, but also have something that they're going towards, and it felt like this episode was something really good with that. And then it was great to see the cast back together. It's been like we saw some of them in Star Trek Strange New Worlds for the crossover, but it's cool to get everyone back together here, including like Freeman and all of them. So it was really cool to see everyone together and get to see what we're going to do now in Season 4. And we also have 2 episodes for this first day, so I'll be doing a separate review for that one, but yeah, keep out for that one. But it was cool to see all these things, like the way that all these characters work together. So I really enjoyed this episode. That's the good. Let's now move over to the bad. So there is something from Tuvix that I will admit that is also from Voyager that this show at first tries to answer, but then they completely stop. And that is, well, what do you do when you combine two beings into one? When you separate them, you essentially kill that new being. And this is something from Star Trek Voyager that it's also like it was a big deal then. And this episode also goes through that. And the way that they kind of skipped over how to solve that. So I'm not sure if that's really the way I wanted to go with it. But they had their answer in this one. Okay. And then at the end of the episode, one character isn't rewarded for something, which I found very weird. And I like the reasoning, but I'm not sure how much I like it. I was like, okay, that makes sense. At the same time, I'm like, but and we'll talk about it more when we get there. And then there was something about the Boimler arc of this episode that I found very weird, that I was like, this kind of felt like it was a plot hole with some of the other Star Trek stuff. So that was another thing where I'm like, do you guys not think about this? Like, did no one tell you, hey, that doesn't make sense here? But at the same time, I still had fun with this. So I'm going to give this episode an 8 out of 10. That's my score, guys. I'm giving it an 8 out of 10 for great, because I enjoyed it a lot. I thought this was a good starting episode for a season. You're setting up a season-long arc, and you have like nice comedy things. As I said, comedy is the hardest thing to review in my opinion, because the way you like things or the way I like things aren't always going to go. So if you're a Star Trek fan, I definitely recommend this episode. I think it's a lot of fun. I think if you're a Voyager fan especially, you're going to love it. So let's actually now, like I said, the next review is going to be episode 2. That should be out. I'm hoping to put them out around the same time. So let's actually now go into the spoiler section. So if you're not joining us for the spoilers, thanks for watching. Please come back and watch the rest of the video once you've actually seen it. Please like the channel, and yeah. So here's your spoiler warning. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, guys. Now we're to the spoiler. Let's actually talk about how this episode starts. So first they get to this station, and they're all making jokes like, "Oh, I hope it's not this. I hope it's not that." And it's really fun to see them. And then you have this part where like they still know what it is that they're doing. We see now that Ransom and Boimler are talking to each other. And Ransom's telling like, "Hey, if you do everything good and nothing goes bad today, you can earn yourself a promotion." And it's like, "Oh wow, he's finally gonna get that promotion." Like, okay, I'm really excited for him. But but if nothing goes wrong, it's already telling you, okay, obviously something's gonna go wrong. It's Boimler, of course something's gonna happen. And then we drop back to Mariner, and she's on the bridge, and they're about to get to the station, and that's when you see it. The lights turn on, and you see the Voyager logo on the front of the ship, and you see the whole ship. And during the scene, it is the music from Voyager, and I'm just like, oh my god, I'm freaking out. And then Mariner has a scene where she freaks out too, and I'm like, yep, that's exactly how I'm feeling seeing Voyager. This is one of my favorite. Even when we saw it in Star Trek Picard, it's like, no, Voyager is one of my favorite ships and all that. So that was really cool. And then we actually find out what's going on. They're sending Voyager to Earth. It's been at the station, I guess, for remodeling and things being done to it. So now it's being sent to Earth. I guess it's going to become its museum, as we knew from Star Trek Voyager, the final episode, Endgame. Voyager did become, in the alternate reality, it did become a museum. We didn't know if they were going to do the exact same thing here, but it looks like they're doing the same thing there. And we know in Picard season 3, which I believe happens after this, we know that the ship is eventually going to be sent to another station, and that's where it's going to be put for good. So yeah, that was really cool to see. And then they're moving things off the ship. People are there moving things and things like that because there's stuff they're not going to need anymore. But you see the flower, and it moves slightly, like it's inside a container. It moves slightly, and you see a petal just come out, and eventually you see T'Ana and Billups. Like Billups tells her, "Hey, do you want to ride back to the ship?" And they're going to use the teleport. Crap, I'm just going to call it teleporter. I cannot remember what it's called at the moment. And they're just going to use that. They're going to beam back to the ship. And when they're beaming, right on Billups' foot lands the flower petal, and now T'Ana and Billups end up becoming one. I think they're calling it T'Illups, and this is the new character that they made. And it's really cool to see. I really enjoyed it. But yeah, they're going to have the crew of the Cerritos are going to be dealing with that problem, while the crew that was already on the Voyager, they're going to just go send the ship to Earth. So our A story and our B story are completely separate places. So that's cool. Just to say in our character, so Mariner, Boimler, and Rutherford, Ransom, and I think one other person are inside Voyager, while Tendi, T'Lyn, T'Illups, Shax, and Freeman are on the Cerritos. So those are A and B stories. Alright, so now on Voyager, we see that the macrovirus from back in that show, part of it survived inside one of the, like behind one of the gel packs. It's weird, I didn't really like that. I was like, come on, this seems very stupid. Especially, it was on the bridge. You're telling me no one cleaned the bridge enough that they never found this macrovirus there? So I was just like, alright, I don't like that part of it. But it's like cool, it's like, okay, homage to Voyager. He brought back the macrovirus. And they end up it ends up escaping the bridge. Boimler didn't do a good job stopping it. It seems like he's having like a mental breakdown because of his promotion. So I can see where that's going on right there. He's like, everything's going wrong for him. So now we go back to Cerritos, and they're in sickbay dealing with the whole T'Illups thing. And you can tell that T'Lyn's like, hey, maybe we shouldn't be messing with this. She's like, I think T'Lyn knows, like, we're going to have to separate them, so this being is no longer going to exist. But Freeman wants to find a way that they are able to maybe separate but still keep T'Illups. But she doesn't know exactly how they're going to be able to do that, so she's going to go look at what Janeway did. And that's just hilarious when you find out what she did. So now on Voyager, The macrovirus is causing havoc, and then a bunch of the holograms from Voyager turn on. Though there is a clown there, and I'm just thinking, I don't think the clown was on Voyager. That seems like it was. I remember that being on another different Star Trek show. But we see stuff from like their version of Flash and Gordon. I can't remember what that character's name anymore. But that's fine. So then Voyager's being taken over by the macrovirus and these holograms. And then we go back to the Cerritos, and this is when they find out what Janeway did. And it's already said, like, when Voyager did this, it was already like, oh, wow. Well, what she did is that she needed Neelix and Tuvok, so she just separated them against Tuvix's wishes. She basically just murdered him. And it's just like, oh, crap. And even Freeman says, like, oh, crap, we were able to find this information really easily. T'Illips is going to be able to find it as well easily. Sure enough, T'Illips finds it, and things just do not go well. So now let's go back to Cerritos for a second. And the macrovirus is going all over the place. It ends up going into the cargo bay where 7 of 9's Borg stuff's at. It ends up combining with a Borg nanite, and now it's like it's evolved into a Borg macrovirus. Everything's going wrong for them already. It's like, oh, things are not going to go well. All right, so from here we go back to T'Illips on the Cerritos, and he doesn't want to die. She, I don't know. It's a mixture of two. The creature does not. T'Illips does not want to die. They want to live, and T'Illips then ends up coming up with a genius idea. Remember, it's a character that has Billups' engineering mind, and what it decides to do is just make a transporter right there, and it mixes Miggly Moo and Freeman while they come in to try and Freeman comes in, mix those two together to make another hybrid. And T'Illips' plan is, I'm just going to make a bunch of hybrids to the point where we're just going to survive. And I'm like, that's pretty smart. So T'Illips has a good idea. And then we see the hybrids start to take over the ship. And yeah, everyone's just like, oh crap, what are we going to do? So now we go back to the Voyager, and we see Boimler. He ends up running into Mariner. I think he tries to help her, but he is not able to. And she gives him a cool speech of like, hey, like, you just need to believe in yourself. And she gives him like a good pep talk. She even tells him, hey, I'm the one that recommended you to get promoted because I believe in you. You're a great guy and all that. And it's like, okay, this is awesome. Boimler's spirit's coming up, and he's going to be able to come up with an idea of how to be able to save the ship. So that's really cool. So let's go back to the Cerritos for a second. And T'Lyn ends up coming up with a good idea, but it's also kind of messed up. And this is the scene where I kind of hated what they ended up doing. She ended up mixing all the hybrids together into one being using the transporter. And this one, the reason I say I didn't really like this is because all it does is that it mixed everyone into one. So it's no longer really a sentient being. It just is a being that's combined of everybody. It's just like this giant blob. And I was just like, you guys got away with having to answer the question of, is it ethical in order to like separate them, and you end up killing that new being. So they went around it, and I was like, all right, I get what you guys did. But yeah, now we get back to Boimler, who's on Voyager, and he ends up saving Rutherford. He doesn't save Jack, but his reason is he needs an engineer. So he ends up getting Rutherford, and they come up with a plan of how to save Voyager. And actually, this is the scene now where they end up trying to figure out how to fix the hybrids. And now Tendi doesn't have a problem with separating them, because she did have a problem before. She's like, it's not ethical for us to separate a new being. But now that it's not a sentient being, Tendi's kind of like, oh no, I'm okay with separating them. Like I said, this is where they kind of did that thing of like, oh, you guys went around what happened before. But you know what? It's a show. They got to do what they got to do. All right, so now we end up going back to Voyager. And yeah, they end up separating everybody. Actually, before I go to Voyager, they end up separating everybody. And yeah, it's happy dory for everyone. It's all good. Not a big deal. Let's go back to Voyager. And earlier in the episode, they mentioned that Cheese ended up breaking the ship one time. So they ended up thinking, hey, we're just going to put Cheese inside the gel packs and break the ship. So they ended up breaking the ship with Cheese. I don't know how it worked, but it worked. But the coolest thing here is that Boimler ends up having to be a distraction with the holograms, and he plays his job really great, and it's really cool to see of what he does. He just has to be brave for a second. Yeah, I'm like, yeah, he's earning that promotion, while Rutherford is doing messing with the Cheese. They end up stopping the ship, which was... Here was my issue. The ship was apparently going to find a Borg cube. But if this is after Endgame, most of the ships in the Collective would not be working anymore. The Collective was stopped in Endgame, and even when we see the Collective in Picard, which happens years later, it's like most of the Collective is down. It's like I didn't get how that worked. That seemed very dumb to me, how what they did there. I'm like, why didn't anyone say, like, that doesn't make any sense? Maybe I'm wrong, but I'm just thinking about it, I'm like, that doesn't make sense that there would have been a Borg cube to go to. Unless it was like the activated Borg cube, but then why would he be going there? It just seemed weird to me. And then it's really cool after that, Boimler and Rutherford end up getting an exhibit on Voyager once it becomes a museum. And I was like, you know what? That's really cool. I really am excited for them. And the cool thing after that is that now we have the promotion ceremony. So T'Lyn gets promoted, Tendi gets promoted, Boimler gets promoted, and Mariner gets promoted as well. So I was like, oh, I was really happy for her, even though T'Lyn's only been there for like nothing. So I was like, okay, weird that she got promoted as well, but she did something cool. What was weird was that Rutherford didn't get promoted. His reasoning is, well, I did break something, I'm an engineer, but at the same time it's like, but you still had to come up with an idea to break it. That's still kind of engineering to break something. So I was just like, I didn't really like that reasoning, but there's a reason for it, and we'll talk about that in the next episode. So yeah, everyone minus Rutherford got promoted, so really cool for them. We'll see what they do in the next episode. And now here's the cool thing of we're setting up our season-long arc. We see the Klingons from back in... Oh, I can't remember the name of the episode, but there was an episode where we saw a bunch of different ships, and like this is when we first met T'Lyn. It's like, okay, we have people from this ship, we have people from that ship, like different races. Those Vulcan, Klingons, and I think we even saw Borg and Pakleds as well. So from that episode, we see that ship one more time. They find this craft, and they don't want to destroy it at first because they're like, oh, it looks weak. But then it ends up turning on, and it destroys the Klingon ship. And that's how we're starting this arc for the season-long thing. We're going to continue with that in the next episode. But it was just really weird, like, oh, wow, okay, we're starting strong. We'll see if this arc is actually good. I'm a little bit worried about it. But at the moment, I'm excited. So let's see what they do with it. And that's the end of this review, guys. That's all that's happening for this episode. I'm going to make another review for episode 2, so please hold on for that. But yeah, this was really cool. I really enjoyed it. I can't wait to see what they do next, and I'm happy that Lower Decks is back. It's my favorite Star Trek show of the moment, besides Strange New Worlds. Those two are like my favorite, 1 and A. Those are my favorite ones right now. So yeah, thank you for watching. Please subscribe to the channel and let me know in the comments down below what you guys thought. I'm really hoping people are watching the show. I'm excited to be having it back. So yeah, let's talk about it, guys. All right, I'll talk to you soon. Bye.